Can you tell me about Osama bin Laden and your admiration for him?
He was very powerful but a very simple and respectful guy when you met him.
What do you have to say about the September 11 attacks in America? What was your role in it? How did it happen?
3 of the attackers were from my group.
Do you believe in the Islamic State now? Does ISIS have any branches in India? Are you aware of it? Trained by Al-Qaeda leader Osama bin Laden, Mohammed Haydar Zammar played a crucial role in radicalizing members of the infamous Hamburg cell in Germany who went on to perpetrate the 9/11 attacks. According to Kurdish authorities, he knew Islamic State leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi and worked with Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, who took over as Syria's interim president on January 30. Once a staunch believer in violent jihad, Zammar has since mellowed. His demands are now very simple. He wants a Quran to read in prison and wishes to meet his family. In his first interview since the fall of Islamic State in 2018, Zammar recounts to the week his extraordinary journey, which culminated in the stifling cells of a Kurdish prison. Tell me about you. How and why were you arrested? How did you land in this prison?
My name is Mohammed Haydar Zammar. I was born in Aleppo in Syria in 1961. I stayed in Syria till 4th grade. In 1963, my dad traveled to Germany. In 1971, he took me and my sister to Hamburg. I joined school in Germany and studied there till 10th grade. Then I got a certificate in mechanics from Mercedes-Benz. After that, I traveled to Saudi Arabia with my cousin to work in a wind energy manufacturing company. One of the workers there was a translator. Then I worked with my cousins in Al Jafali company as a receptionist in the Mercedes-Benz distribution division. I stayed in Saudi Arabia for 2 years and then I got back to Germany because the situation in Saudi Arabia was not good. I then married a Syrian woman from Aleppo and had 6 children. When I was living in Germany, I sometimes had a job. I was sick as I had problems in my back. In 1991, I went to Afghanistan after the Russian army withdrew from there. I got trained there in Al Farouk camp with Osama bin Laden and I got military training for 2 months. And then I joined the frontline fighting in Jalalabad. After that, I got back to Germany. In 1995, I traveled to Afghanistan. During that time, the Taliban was controlling more than half of Afghanistan. I wanted to see how the Taliban was dealing with the people. I wanted to help the Syrian members of the Taliban. I gave them some economic and financial help. In 1999, I visited Afghanistan again. And I met Osama bin Laden. And I would have loved to take my family to live in Afghanistan, but I didn't. My visits to Afghanistan were short and then I went back to Germany. In Hamburg, I had friends and a group. We used to read the Quran together. It was a group that invited others to join Islam. After the attacks of September 11 in America, we were called the Hamburg Cell. For 2 years before the September attack, I hadn't met my friends. I understood my friends did the September attack only after it happened. At the time, I was in Aleppo and waiting for my wife to travel to Germany via Istanbul. I didn't have any information about the attacks. When I arrived in Germany, German intelligence told me that my friends committed the September 11 attacks. I told them that they were my friends, but I did not know anything about the attacks, and that the orders were given by Osama bin Laden. When they released me from the prison, I traveled to my second wife in Morocco and was on my way to Tangier with her when Moroccan intelligence arrested me in Casablanca. They investigated me for 23 days and handed me over to Syrian intelligence. In Syria, they investigated me and lodged me in prison for 12 years. I stayed for 4.5 years in a Damascus prison without any info on my family. I stayed in an individual prison room. After that, they sent me to Sednaya prison and investigated me. I told them that I had been in Afghanistan. In Sednaya prison, they put me in a big room with another person. After that, the German embassy in Syria visited me, and then my family also visited me in the prison. After that, visitors were allowed to meet me. So my son Adil visited. Then the German embassy asked me if I wanted a lawyer. I told them I didn't have money to hire a lawyer. They then agreed to organize a lawyer for me. I told the lawyer about how I was dealt with badly in prison. The chief of the prison asked me why I told the lawyer that. I said it was my lawyer, and so I said it. After that, they were good to me. They took me to a square in the prison and allowed me to see sunlight for the first time. In 2008, they took me to the military court again and investigated me. At first, the judgment was to hang me. Then they changed their mind and said I would have to be in prison forever. And finally, I was given 12 years of imprisonment. In that period, in 2008, there were 3 protests inside Sednaya prison. I was part of all 3 protests against the prison authorities. In December, in the 3rd protest, there was an agreement between the prisoners and the Syrian government. The agreement was not to punish us or violently attack us anymore. From Sednaya, I was shifted to Adra prison and was lodged there for 1 year. They took me again to Sednaya and I was there for 4 months. Again, they shifted me to Adra prison. But the situation changed and everything was good in prison for me this time. I got my family and other visitors to meet me. At this time, there was an agreement that you could ask the authorities to take you to a prison in any other city you wanted. So I asked. They took me to the Aleppo prison. In Aleppo too, there were protests, but the Red Crescent stepped in to negotiate because there was no food or water for the prisoners.
What is your opinion about ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi? Have you ever met him, and why did you join the ISIS?
One of my friends was Abu Khalid al-Suri, the Amir of Ahrar al-Sham group. He had me released from the prison through a prisoner exchange agreement with the Syrian regime. When I got released, the Syrian revolution had just begun, and Aleppo was separated into various sections, each section for each group. At that time, I was sick, so I went to my brother's farm. When I got back at the end of 2013 and the beginning of 2014, I joined ISIS. But I never met Baghdadi or any other important leader in ISIS. I joined because I saw them as the best group on the ground. Because I am a Muslim man, I want to live freely in this Islamic State. So I liked Baghdadi and his Islamic State.
What do you have to say about Abu Muhammad al-Julani?
I don't know him personally, but he was in prison with Baghdadi in Iraq. Baghdadi sent him to Syria and asked him to build Jamaat al-Nusra in Syria. But al-Julani made a big mistake. He separated from ISIS and built another group, which was not true ISIS. That separated him from Baghdadi.
Does ISIS have any branches in India? Are you aware of it?
I don't have any information or any idea about ISIS branches in India, but before I was arrested, I had information that there are groups of ISIS in Indonesia and a group of Boko Haram ISIS in Africa. In Africa, it was started on the instructions of Baghdadi. But after that, what happened, I really don't know because I was arrested. I don't know anyone from India who was like the head of ISIS or a leader of ISIS in India. But before I was arrested, I did meet a guy from Kashmir. But after I was arrested, I didn't meet anyone from India. And I didn't know anything about the coordination between ISIS headquarters and its branches in India.
Can you tell me about Osama bin Laden and your admiration for him?
Osama bin Laden is a known international personality. His father was very, very rich. He was helping the Mujahideens and defending the fighters with his money. He was very powerful, but a very simple and respectful guy when you met him. And also, he was a very smart person.
What do you have to say about the September 11 attacks in America? What was your role in it? How did it happen?
3 of the attackers were from my group, but all of them died because it was a suicide attack. And I do not know who attacked the Pentagon in the USA.
What do you think you want now?
I want to see my family. I want my family to visit me. And I don't know what's happening outside. I want to know that. I asked for a Quran to read in prison. Unfortunately, I have not received it yet.
Do you believe in the Islamic State now?
I believe we should live according to the God's orders and Prophet Muhammad's orders. We are humans, we aren't angels. So anyone can make a mistake, and the Islamic State is like that. They are doing good sometimes and wrong sometimes. There's nothing wrong with that.
Will you go back to fight with guns and join ISIS again if released?
Now I am 64. My health doesn't allow me to do that. If I am released, I will go back to live in Germany. Or I will go to Australia. I have a friend from Australia. I am not good health wise. Before arrest, I was 145 kilos, but now my weight has reduced to 85 kilos.
In 2014, when you joined ISIS, what were you?
In 2014, when first I joined, I worked in the public relations department of ISIS. After that, I was made the general head of public relations. And then I worked as a person responsible for all the stations in the Al Bab area. And then I had a car accident. I broke my leg and was in bed for 1.5 years.
You were trained by Osama bin Laden and you were in his military. Did you train others in ISIS?
I told you already that I was trained in Afghanistan. I forgot to tell you that I was also trained in Bosnia in 1995 because of the Croatian and Serbian attacks on Muslims. So, as a true Muslim, I went to Bosnia and joined the Mujahideen battalion there. I joined them in attacking the Serbians and Croatians. After we won that battle, the Americans and NATO joined together and made negotiations between the Croatians, Serbians, and the Muslims.